Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brannon Followell. I'm getting a lot of questions about nutrition. What do you eat? How should I eat? What should my diet include? And a lot of clients ask it. A lot of people at my work ask it. A lot of people, once they find out what I'm into, they ask it. And I figured the best way to do this, the quickest way to do this, without taking too much of your time and so I don't lose people, is to show you, give you a picture of what my kitchen looks like, what I do, and give you a little bit of insight on why you do it and why I do it, and probably help direct you in other ways if you want to look it up. Most people won't. But I want you to actually learn something here, and I want to try to answer this question. So I figure putting it on YouTube where somebody can click and have it repeat and click and have it repeat and watch it again several times. That way, wait a minute, go back, and I don't lose anyone because I have a bad problem of doing that. My communication skills are very poor when speaking to Americans. So over here we have my bread bowl where I make sourdough bread, and I just cooked some frozen vegetables and a lot of brown rice. And again, that's just what I do at the stove, part of it. On my days off, I cook a lot of food that's going to take me days to eat, and I put them in these containers. They're plastic containers, and there's some of the vegetables I just put away. There's some hummus back there. I make that in that little blender. That little blender's my friend. Again, I found a bread recipe that cost me 60 cents a loaf to make, and I've found a hummus recipe of 2 cans of hummus is $1.98 at Walmart, and I found a way to do this cheaply. And two things this does: one, it allows me to afford to eat raw goods, which two, don't have a long list of ingredients. Anything that you get that's packaged in a box or a bag, and some of the sins I commit are this right here. It's pretty healthy, but again, it comes in a bag, so it's got a lot of preservatives and other things that give it a shelf life. We'll get to that in a minute. These things, I eat a lot of those. They're cheap, they're portable, and you get their oats, which is a low glycemic source. We'll get to that in a minute. I'll save my rant for the end of this, for those of you who don't want to hear it. And this right here, I eat a lot of that. Again, I say I do this on a budget. Peanut butter is easy to take from someone who likes it and they don't notice it's gone. But all of that stuff can be stored in those plastic containers and put into this little deal right here. It's my best friend. I can strap it to the back of my bike or fit it in a backpack. And then when I get to work, I have got a huge amount of stuff that I can throw in the microwave, and it's stored in those plastic containers. I can heat it up and eat it, or grab it and eat it in the case of peanut butter and those bars. Okay, now, here's why that's important. I work 2 jobs. Most people, if they can afford to eat healthy, which is not cheap, they don't have time to fix and prepare food. So I wait all my days off and I fix a lot of it, and I put it in those containers where I could stash it and only have to reheat it once. You generally don't want to eat something that's been reheated twice. And this way I get to eat foods where the list of ingredients is short. There's not a lot of preservatives. I don't need a chemical engineering degree to see what goes into my food. Basically, anything that's got a shelf life, it's got all kinds of stuff in the food that you don't want. Just read the ingredients on anything in a box or a bag, and you've got a long list of things that we can't even spell, let alone pronounce. It might work out good for the retailer so they don't lose money because the stuff doesn't spoil on the store shelves before I get to it. But real food spoils, and if it doesn't, I don't trust it. Okay, now I'm going to come over here and, okay, you see the sprouting part. Yeah, sprouting is a good thing to get into. You can put all kinds of sprouting pots like that all over your house, and you can do that without attracting pests. You can Google sprouting, 15 minutes, give yourself a little bit of education about sprouting, and it's a way to give yourself a plentiful source of grab-and-eat food that is raw. A lot of my vegetables, I keep a stash of sweet potatoes, a stash of bananas, things that are generally sprayed with pesticides, but I keep a lot of problems down by eating only frozen vegetables or fresh vegetables. Okay, so covered 2 points: how I do it on a budget, how I do it when constricted with time, and all I have time to do is grab something or stick something in the microwave and run out the door. That's the problem a lot of people have, and how I afford to do it. And let's see, what's another point we need to cover? Another thing is hydrogenated fats. There's a lot of myths out there about fats. That right there is a good fat. And let's come over here. You would think a drug addict lives here with all this supplementation I've got over here. That right there is a good fat. This stuff right here is the best stuff in the world. And if you're not on it, you need to be. I've got stuff for my joints in there. I've got all kinds of stuff. Again, that's another study in sports science. It's a different thing. I don't want to lose anybody. The basic question in nutrition that a lot of people don't ask themselves, and it's not really spelled out in a lot of these fad diets that are designed to sell you a lot of product, and you have to ask yourself, what am I going to be doing over the next 3 hours? That should determine what and how you eat. If I'm going to be working out in the next 3 hours, I'm going to carb load, and I'm going to be eating a good low glycemic source of carbs. Google the glycemic index and find out what that's about. I'm going to be eating something that's slow digesting, doesn't get into my blood very fast. The body's not looking for places to store it. I'm not going to be hungry again in 30 minutes. These are two things you don't want happening if you are trying to keep off excess weight or cut weight. And after a workout, I don't have a lot of fancy protein shakes. Let me show you what I do. That little container right there, I'll whip up an egg, I'll put some milk in it, put a little water in it to thin it out. This makes it quickly digestible. After a good workout where your heart rate's been high, the stomach's not wanting to digest, other bodily functions are shut down, and you're going to want to bar stuff up if you consume a hell of a lot if you're doing the right kind of workouts. I train for a sports-specific thing. There's an end game in mind. I've got a fight I'm training for or something like that. I don't see any sense in going to the gym if you don't have some sort of motivator there, and I think that's why a lot of people fail and quit, because they're just doing it because they're pissed off about their weight, or they read something in Muscle and Fitness or whatever, and it's a fad, and that's not something that is really a good motivator to me. To me, that's like cyber sex or non-alcoholic beer. There's something missing there. There's no substance. So I've got a performance purpose for everything that I eat, and this helps me to stick to things that don't necessarily taste as good. They're not the cream puffs or the pastries or the fast foods or the other things that we're used to. But the biggest difference, and this is my rant that I said I'd say for the end, the biggest difference between myself and most people who don't understand this is I'm kind of fighting the system of things, and I'm separating fact from fiction. I'm looking at what's designed to sell me a product and what's actually good for my health and results in good performance. And it's taken me years to figure that out. Whereas most people, they haven't had to think about this stuff. All they've done is either drive to the store to get their food, or worse, drive to the fast food restaurant to get their food. And you don't even have to get out of the car to do that. So what's this done? I can get away with being an idiot when it comes to nutrition, flat out, and it's fine. It doesn't matter. So a lot of people, what do? The path of least resistance is to get away with being an idiot. And so we've got a lot of idiots when it comes to this, flat out idiots. I can't even talk to somebody for 2 minutes about this subject without it going over their head. Yeah, you're losing me, man. Can you dumb it down? Listen, you have to fight that. You have to take the time to figure out what's good, what's not, and what type of exercise needs to go with these things. I've taken a while studying all these things. So here I am with literally stacks of books worth of knowledge up here trying to explain it to somebody who just barely learned to speak English. It's kind of tough. So I hope that the visual aids, have helped to bridge that gap somewhat. And I hope I've kept this less than 10 minutes so that most people's attention span can absorb it. That's another thing that comes with piss poor diet and no exercise. It's just a fact. So Please leave your questions in the comment thread. I will try to answer your questions as they arise. I hope this is enough to spur discussion, because you can't cover this in 10 minutes, which is all that people really want to pay attention to it for. So this is my attempt at helping, and I hope to God it helps.